Okay, to begin with, we're going to show you how to jab. So first, get in your stance. If you don't know how to find your stance, look up the other tutorial video. So usually, make a T with your foot, step out, slight tilt, rotation, a little bit of an angle. I'm going to bend my knees, get in my form. I'm going to bring my hands up. Now, in boxing, you're going to be more close up, but in other martial arts, you're also going to have this lead hand that's going to be out more. So when in boxing, tighter, other martial art styles, you're going to find the lead hand is often a little bit angled out already there. There's less distance to cover in the other martial art styles. Boxing, you kind of got to move in a little bit more. So that being said, we're going to take a martial arts stance with our hand already being kind of out and not as close. So from here to jab, it's from the ground all the way up. So we start from the ground. When I rotate, I'm pivoting my hip towards my opponent. I'm rotating on my feet. And as I'm doing this, not only am I pushing from the ground to go forward toward my opponent, it's like a pulley system on my back. My backhand comes back, my lead hand goes forward. And you can feel it in your back if you're doing it correctly. As this hand comes forward towards your opponent, your backhand is coming back, staying close to the chin to give yourself some protection. You're not pulling it back out here. It's not like a bow. It's the same mechanism as a bow. You should feel it in your back like you're drawing a bow, but you're trying to keep as much coverage with your elbow, your forearm, and your fist on your body as much as possible while doing it. So you're pulling back, feeling that motion, and that's the jab. This is a proper jab. You're squatting down, driving, hips are coming towards your opponent, shoulders going towards your opponent, everything's fluid in one motion. Other angle. Jab, jab, jab. Now in a fight, you're not going to be able to just stand here and throw because your opponent's just going to do this and move out of the way. So in a fight, you're going to have to take that step forward, keeping your stance, and once you land, that's when you attack. So to cover this distance, I come here and I'm driving and I'm attacking, all in one motion. So I'm here, forward, I'm planted, I'm rotating from the ground, starting from the ground up, it's traveling through my body, I'm rotating my hips, my shoulders are in line with my hips, it's all one movement. It's rotation, rotation, all the way through, and you're imagining your fist going through your opponent because you don't want to fall short and hyperextend your elbow, which can cause damage to you, and it could keep you from throwing any more punches with that hand in the fight. So from a jab, full speed. Now this is a 100-pound bag with no gloves. If you're a newbie, novice, I recommend using gloves before you start trying to give it your all in a 100-pound bag. I have a stronger wrist, I've strength trained, I've conditioned my body to be able to punch this 100-pound bag. When I first got this bag, when I was starting up, I'd often find when I hit wrongly, by hitting with the opposite knuckles, you're supposed to hit with the first two, by hitting with the opposite knuckles, or when the point of contact was ever so slightly angled, I'd wind up creating strain on my wrist because my fist would go down and my wrist would come up and it would really sprain and also put a lot of strain on that wrist. So be sure you're hitting straight on. You don't want to have any angle when you're working on a heavy bag. A lighter bag you can get away with a little bit of mishaps, but you really got to focus on where you're hitting. So here we go again. And also in martial arts, you often see a lot of people breathing out when they hit. The reason you breathe out when you hit is because when you get hit, you don't have that air to lose. Okay, to demonstrate again, we're going to show top and bottom view. So from the jab, from this side, and I'm going to rotate so that way you can see it from the back angle too. Get into my stance, feel comfortable, feel powerful, and what I'm going to do is right here. This is the movement. So all in one go. I'm going to rotate. Also, when you're rotating from the bottom half, so when I rotate on my feet for a jab, I'm putting my weight on the front part of my feet. I'm not on my heels. I'm not rotating on my heels. I'm on the front part of my feet. And when I rotate, if you'll look at my feet, this motion right here. As my hips come towards my opponent, my toes turn behind me, but they're still at an angle, so they're not completely back on. It's at an angle. I make contact. I then set back down in position to line up for a combo, a reverse, a kick. Wherever my opponent is, it's going to set me up, because that's what the jab is for. The jab is what you use to probe your opponent to see how they're going to react, but also to see what you can line up after that. The jab is not what's going to be the knockout shot. It's not supposed to be that powerful. Some people will flicker jab. Some people just throw it out there to just gauge their opponent, see their reaction. The reasons why you'd want to utilize the jab in a fight is to be able to gauge your opponent, to see how they're going to react. Are they going to lean out? Are they going to try to block? Are they going to try to work in on you after you throw? So it's a good way to gauge your opponent, gauge the level of their fighting abilities, where they're at, and that way you have a better chance of getting inside and into the fight. The jabs can be powerful. I usually throw a more powerful jab, but I also utilize fast jabs. You know, you'll see sometimes people will call them flicker jabs, and they'll just throw them out real in rapid succession just to get their opponent off guard, make them take a step back, mess up their stance to the point where they might, be off balance one way, and then they'll come in for a sweep, come in for a takedown, whatever it may be. But that's one of the reasons why you want to utilize the jab in a fight. The jab sets you up. It sets you up to figure out what your opponent's going to do. It's also setting you up to figure out what do you want to throw next, whether it be a hook, whether it be a reverse, whether it be a kick. I'm trying to find an opening in his defense where I can slip that kick into his ribs, where I can slip that hook to the head, whatever I'm trying to find. So it really just gauges how well he's going to open up his defense, and if his balance is going to be, weakened by me throwing a jab and him backing up or having to move out of the way, and that way I can go for a takedown, I can go for a sweep to get him on the ground if I'm experienced on the ground of jiu-jitsu, whatever it may be. So the jab is one of the best fundamentals you need to learn in the beginning, as well as the reverse punch, because the jab is what sets up the rest of the moves. So if you learn everything else and not the jab, and you don't perfect the jab, you're going to have a hard time finding openings, and you're not going to be able to gauge your opponent as well as if you had that probe, which is the jab. So to demonstrate one more time, the jab. I throw a more powerful jab than most people. I'm going to demonstrate like a lighter jab. So a lighter jab is going to be fast. It's just going to be throwing your arm out there and just flicking it out. In a lot of kung fu, they're using the back knuckles to just kind of flick at their opponent, and if it hits, it hits. And when it does hit, it can create an opening by making your opponent flinch, by closing their eyes, backing up, or even if they don't get hit, closing their eyes, they won't be able to see what's coming, so they'll just, And then mine, I usually kind of keep same stance, and I just all around. I can go high, I can go low, and that can make someone really tense up if you're close and they don't know what's going on, especially if they're inexperienced. But a more powerful jab is going to look like this. Now I've set myself in. Now I can hook, I can knee, I can throw a kick if they come out further, whatever it may be, but I've set myself up for it. So, reverse, you're going to jab and throw a reverse. So here, I'm going to come off the midline, I'm going to throw my reverse. So I'm setting it up for those combos. So, off the midline, if I was on the midline, I'd be here. I'm stepping off the midline and throw that reverse.
Okay, so basically when me and Jackson were sparring, getting into it, he was teaching me some stuff. When he was talking about like getting ground, so you're sitting here and you're gonna go to your opponent, or if you're a little bit closer, you're sitting here and you got that power. What I got in trouble, or I thought the most challenging part for me, is every time I would do it, I would end up like this. And I'd be off balance and I'd have to find some way to get my stance back. So when you're sitting here, it's not a big lunge. You're moving both feet at the same time and you're kind of dragging that back foot. So you're here. And always keep the other hand up for the blocking.
And the reason I drag my back foot is so if I'm coming at him, I don't want to be up in the air with the damn jab and then he'll be throwing a reverse and I'm up here. I can't move out of the way. I'm flying. I'm off the ground. I can't pivot. I can't do anything. But if I keep that foot dragging and I come in and he throws, I can shift my weight to this back leg and be able to maneuver. But if I'm off the ground, I can't do anything, and it's going to put you more at risk for you to knock on your ass, because if you're off the ground, you got no stability, you got nothing keeping you on the ground. So when you have a top force on, on your heavy part, your center of balance is going to be knocked off, and you're going to be more likely to fall. And that's when you see like people get knocked out or knocked on the ground real easily from a punch that didn't look like it had a lot of power. It's because they don't have a lot of balance, they don't have a stance, and more times than not, they're off the ground and they're rushing. To demonstrate the foot dragging a little bit better, from here, you can kind of see I'm coming off the ground just for a split second with my lead foot, because I want to keep this lead foot light, because if he checks my leg or does anything to try to throw this leg out or break it in by stepping inward and trying to bend my knee in, I got the weight off this leg, so I'm easier to just pick it up and check. So I'm coming in, lift my leg, I can check. Now if I'm off the ground, I can't do shit about it, like I just said. So it's not a jump, it's not a bound and leap like Kung Fu. I mean, it's not, you can't boundfully leap into anything and expect really good results unless the person's just completely off guard or untrained. So the flying kicks, the flying punches are really flashy. Yes, some people get them off. You see some crazy ass clips out there, but it's not really practical for almost every situation you're in. So train practically. So from here, I'm going forward to my opponent. My lead foot comes off the ground. I'm planting. This foot's getting dragged. Like I said, if I need to back up, right there. Weight shifts back here. That way, if they do come in while I'm shifting my weight, I can pick this leg up to check. And if I need to, I can just open up my stance and I can change my stance outward. So I'll just do this and I'll rotate out. So come in, shift, here. I'm still in stance. So it doesn't always have to be straight back. So we're going to demonstrate how to do the jab and how to properly utilize it. Go ahead whenever you get ready to throw a jab. So he's throwing right here. You can see how quick that is. I mean, we're close and he don't have much distance to travel. Now he's more of a boxer stance right now by keeping his, go back, reset, by keeping his jab, his lead hand closer to his chin. That's more of a boxer stance. When the martial artist is going to be more side on and more already right here going to throw a jab from there. It's already there. Now he's not moving, so when he moves going to step in, he's already through my head and that quick. I mean, he's not even going full speed. We're just demonstrating the purposes. That's how fast it happens. So go and throw a jab. So I'm going downward. If I'm going down, I can rotate in. This is how to counter a jab. You can come out from the outside of it. I usually want to try to take on the back because they'll have to either back out completely or rotate their stance after you take their back. Best to do that in the beginning of the fight instead of waiting. You can let them jab and get a gauge of how advanced their skills are while they're jabbing. You can kind of dictate and gauge them while they're gauging you. But as he's jabbing, going jab at my face, he can gauge if I'm able to slip good, if I have defense, if I'm doing this, if I'm running away from him. You know, I mean, he's just threw a kick right there because hell, he's leading onto it and I backed up and he's trying to aggress me and come forward. That's what I'm talking about. The jab leads into other moves. So he just naturally threw a kick right there because I backed out and he's trying to get to me. So the jab leads. Well, it's on the lead hand as well. So back up just a little bit. So when I jab at him, he's backing up. And notice I'm coming in and I'm rotating. Step forward, I my jab again. I step in and I rotate. So all in one move. Now he's got me here. This is another way to counter. If you are able to catch that jab off and he doesn't retract his punch as well, you can either capture this arm and go for a takedown, or you can come in and throw your own.
Don't be afraid to use your legs either.
No, because like I said, like if I'm jabbing, I'm going to back up on this one. So I jab and I'm setting myself up for a kick, but it's hard to see that, especially if you're focused on the eyes of your opponent. You know what's coming. They're throwing a lot of jabs. You're expecting a jab.
Throw a little kick every once in a while.
If you get them used to that jab and then you switch it up randomly and throw something else, they're going to be watching for that jab because they're defending, they're blocking, or they're moving with their head, and I'm not expecting anything else. And now I got all my weight on this front leg because I'm blocking, I'm using head movement, I'm not thinking about anything else. So be prepared for the unexpected as far as that, because jabs lead. So when they throw a jab, try to figure out what they're leading into.
You control the fight, don't let them control it.
Also, we just move around right here, so I want you to be defensive. I'm just going to jab. That's all I'm doing. I'm just jabbing. You can see he's moving around, but he's staying controlled. He keeps the stance. You know, you jab me. So he's here. I'm backing up a little bit. I'm trying to figure out when I can get in and move in on that. The only way to get better at jabs is to find a bag, practice, practice, practice. If you don't have a bag, doing repetitions with nothing but the air is one of the best ways to drill in a solid foundation, a solid form before utilizing the bag. I say the bag is 10% of the training, and the other 90% of the training is hands-on, as well as form repetition, because that's what it is, because you're getting in form, you're drilling it into your muscle memory, where if someone tells you jab, you immediately hands up and you're jabbing.
What I found best for me is look at yourself in the mirror, like shadow box yourself in the mirror, video yourself, just watch how your form looks and how you're moving. Like, oh, how could I have made that different? How can I do if somebody throws a hook or a kick? Watch yourself, learn from yourself, and then correct it.
Shadow boxing also brings into the fact that when you do jab, you're able to see maybe missteps in your form, missteps in your feet. You're able to see problem areas. You know, that's why I also preach, record yourself, record you working out, you know, doing the repetitions, and to make sure that your form is up to par on what you want it to be. Because if you're training sloppily and you don't know that you are, you're going to drill on those problem areas, and it's going to be harder to fix later on. Also, you can look for openings, so when you throw a jab in the mirror, if you're dropping your hand too low, you're like, damn, if that was my opponent, I'd sink a hook right there. That's where you need to be fixing that. So anyway, we're going to go through just a little bit more. So we're going to stand right here, go and throw a jab. I'm blocking. Now go ahead and come in whenever you feel ready. Now I'm stepping out, and right there, go and come in whenever you feel ready. Come on, get back. All right, come in. I'm backing out because he's got me up here. I'm blocking, and now he's already here. So you got to lead. You got to keep the pressure on if you are going to keep the pressure on. If not, you need to take a more defensive stance and back out of it. I want to stay right there trying to counter a reverse, because go ahead and come in again. I can't. It's already here. I mean, I got my block up here, and if I don't rotate out of the way or block it in time, it's going to come straight down the line, hit me in the face. We appreciate you checking out this video. If it was beneficial, let us know. If there was anything you didn't agree with that we went over, please let us know in the comments. Any questions, drop them below. We'll be glad to get back with you. I think we'll probably do the reverse next, so be on the lookout for a tutorial on the reverse, and then we'll go into our kicks. But I preach and preach, get the jab down and get your natural stance down and learn how to block before you go on to anything else. The kicks are flashy. They are very beneficial to learn. Don't get me wrong, because the punch, your fist can only extend out here. I have more range of my foot.
Yep.
So they are beneficial to learn. Just stay away from the flashy movements. You want to keep it simple, stupid. Kiss, you know, keep it simple, stupid. Learn the fundamentals first. That way you can drill it into your muscle memory. When the time comes, you're ready to defend yourself.